Thunderbolts is a movie, and it came out, and it did not do good. And I have kind of said over and over again, I thought it was a flop. I thought it was looking like a flop, and I thought it was pretty much confirmed to be a flop. I mean, again, this is a movie that, like, it's great. I like the movie a lot. You know, really good time with the movie, but it cost $200 million. They had to have marketed it. And so it lost money. And the last we saw, a lot of people said it would probably lose around $100 million. Okay, so enter this article here on TV Fandom Lounge. I have no idea what TV Fandom Lounge is, but I found this article on Reddit. So we're going to talk about it here, okay? While Thunderbolts may not be a box office hit, it's no flop either. Wah, wah, wah. And its positive reception will translate to digital success of an estimated $150 million. Interesting. Let's see what they have to say. Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts has been a creative win for the studio. I would agree with that, with nearly everyone who's seen it singing its praises. This is true, too. I myself watched the film twice and enjoyed it even more the second time, as it deeply resonated with me on an emotional level. However, its box office performance suggests that despite all of the marketing push and the goodwill surrounding the film, its fate reflects a new and evolving reality for Marvel. Thunderbolts hasn't been the box office hit that the studio had hoped for. Despite glowing reviews and enthusiastic word of mouth, Thunderbolts only managed a $162 million global debut. And while its second weekend hold was solid, the film has lacked the staying power needed to significantly grow its totals. The late reveal of the film, actual title, The New Avengers, was presumably intended to generate buzz, but failed to have the desired impact. This is true, and I reported on that, and some people got butthurt about it, but it's true. Even the inclusion of the Avengers brand couldn't ignite the interest from the casual moviegoers, and this points to a deeper issue. The MCU no longer feels like essential viewing, especially on the big screen. After a string of lackluster entries across both film and television, the Marvel brand has lost much of the goodwill that it built during the Infinity Saga. So far, so good. Totally fair. I totally agree with everything. After only a month in theaters, Thunderbolts currently sits at $186 million domestic and $375 million globally, meaning it will likely end its run around $380 to $385 mark. But all things considered, is Thunderbolts a flop, like many have been quick to label it after its box office run? Were we really quick to label it, though? Were we really that quick to label it, though? While the total may appear soft for a Marvel ensemble film as Avengers reveal, it's also important to consider the broader industry context. Fair. With the cost of living, ticket prices rising, the gap between theatrical and digital shrinking, audiences are far more selective about what they'll pay to see in theaters. That's fair. It's not an undeniable event film. Many will just wait for the digital release, for the movie to come out on streaming service, or for which they are already paying a significant amount. Thunderbolts is poised to do very well in VOD and streaming space, thanks to the glowing reviews, strong audience reception, which Marvel Studios really needed after Brave New World. Even films with poor critical and audience reception, such as Joker Folie à Deux and Kraven the Hunter, have made $140 million and $90 million respectively through their digital and streaming runs, according to Deadline. Thunderbolts, whose break-even point is 450 and currently holds a Rotten Tomatoes score of 88%, IMDb score of 7.6, is the very least surefire lock to surpass 130 million that the Marvels made on digital and streaming. That is actually fair. X9008, appreciate you. Thank you so much. Okay, let's talk about this a little bit. Let's give some context here. We've heard the argument. Do we agree? So, absolutely, a lot is true here, and I think the thing that I find to be the most concerning about this whole situation was the new Avengers switch. I mean, frankly, it's one of those things where if they had not done that new Avenger thing, I don't know that I would have went as hard on the movie, but the fact they went that hard and they were trying all this stuff. Robert Downey Jr. is talking about seeing the movie. I mean, that's the first time he ever talked about seeing a Marvel movie since he left. It just seemed like they pulled out a lot of stops and it had basically no effect. Okay? That to me was pretty shocking and pretty concerning for the space, for the Marvel brand, but especially, for Thunderbolt movie specifically, right? Now, of course, I think it's fair to point out that the film was received very well. And in the sort of changing paradigm of the industry and the changing paradigm of theatrical releases and how that all works, yeah, I would assume it's going to do very well on digital. But here's the thing. It's not as though we don't have films that are breaking in and making a lot of money. And, you know, while this movie's in theaters, you have Lilo and Stitch. And before the movie gets in there, you have Minecraft. So, like, money's being made. You know, it's not like the entire industry has diminished so much that there are not movies that are making a lot of money. Marvel used to occupy that space. Marvel was making a lot of money in the theaters while the industry was declining. Like, that's what it was. That's what they were doing. And so it's just kind of weird. And I think it's like a little bit of a cop-out to say, oh, Marvel, who traditionally was above this trend, is now just being wrapped up into the trend. And it's just the new way things go, right? I think that's just a little disingenuous. But here's the thing. I do think it is fair to point out that the digital sales aspect of this film will be very strong. And these numbers are interesting, right? So you have Joker Folie à Deux making $140 million on digital. Seems pretty good considering what the movie made in box office. I mean, that's pretty close to what it actually made in its total theatrical run. And Kraven the Hunter, same thing. That $90 million on digital is probably very close to what it actually made in the box office here. $130 million to the Marvels. That's good, but don't forget, the Marvels is still the biggest box office bomb in the history of Hollywood. What this article is not telling us is how much is Lilo and Stitch said to make digitally. How much is Minecraft said to make digitally? And then we can compare the two, right? So I think it's a little bit unfair that you're trying to take a movie that underperforms in the box office, and then you're trying to use math from digital sales to cushion that failure. But if that's a reality for everybody in the industry, then if you put this thing on like a Nielsen-like chart, I don't think it gets even close. Okay? So I think this is wishful thinking and cope, to be completely honest with you. However, I will say this. From what I understand, there are movies out there, most notably The Flash, that was rejected in theaters, but also rejected digitally. Now, we don't have the numbers for that, but from what I've heard, the digital sales for The Flash were very bad. And what I mean is there are some movies that perform so badly that they're not going to make money in the movie theaters. They're not going to make money digitally. They're basically not going to make money at all. Okay? And I think it's interesting that you look at a movie like Kraven, and then you look at a movie like The Marvels being the biggest box office bomb in the history of Hollywood, Brie Larson being a pretty polarizing figure, people just not wanting to support that movie, and it makes almost $50 million in digital sales more than Kraven. To me, that just means like, dude, Kraven kind of got rejected by digital audience. That 90 is not that great, actually, probably compared to other movies of a similar size. So I guess what I'm saying is you would imagine Thunderbolts will perform better than all of those movies. And I did bring this up while we were talking about Thunderbolts, even maybe like week 2 or 3 when the box office numbers were coming out. I did even say one time, I was like, yeah, this will probably do a lot better on digital than a lot of the other movies they've had. And I think even Captain America did well on digital, but they don't bring it up on that article. So it must not have done that great on digital. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it would be included in those numbers there, right? So I think what we're looking for is Thunderbolts will perform a lot better digitally, and that'll probably just be like over time, man. I think the film has a chance to be considered sort of a cult classic of the MCU catalog, especially if these particular characters go on to do a bunch of stuff in the next 2 Avengers films, if they're heavily involved in what happens next in the MCU and the Mutant Saga. People are going to go back and revisit Thunderbolts, New Avengers, to see how that all began. And frankly, it's just a really good movie. Like, I really enjoy the film. Right? So, interesting report here. I think there's certainly some truth in what they're saying, but ultimately it just still feels like we're being a little unfair here in how we're treating Thunderbolts with kid gloves. Like, why is it such a problem that Thunderbolts is a movie that flopped that's great? Like, why is that a problem? Like, why can't we just say that? You know what I mean? Because There are a lot of movies I love that were a flop. I mean, for fuck's sake, the first Matrix was essentially a flop in theaters, and then it went on to do incredible, in VHS sales, DVD sales, and shit like that, right? The last Mission Impossible movie before this was a flop. Dungeons and Dragons was a flop. And these movies are incredible, right? So, like, what's the problem, dude? That one flop didn't kill the Tom Cruise, John. You know what I mean? Ballerina's making $25 million in an opening weekend. We're all supposed to think that's brilliant. So I do think perspective is important here. Marvel's not like totally fucked, but you do want to look at that number compared to where it was. It's obviously obvious that the audience is not checking it out the same way. It's obvious. So I think you need to lean into event film, bigger brands, bigger spectacle, and I think they are going to do that. Dude, Spider-Man 4 is about to be Spider-Man 4 brand new cameo day. You know what I mean? So Marvel making a change, making a pivot, but I still think Thunderbolts is a flop. I don't think it's a problem to say that. Thunderbolts is a flop. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you, after hearing the article, you understand why people think that it's not a flop. Totally on you to, make up your own mind on that. As far as I'm concerned, it's a flop. Oh, well. Thanks for watching. And if you like this clip, smash a like on the actual video and subscribe to this channel. That way more of these clips get into your feed. I've also linked the full episode below if you want to check out the entire thing, including the Q&A we do with fans. You can also watch this show live. We do it live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can also find all of my content, including the videos I put on my main YouTube channel, on the podcast feed.